It was my privilege in March to be with brothers and sisters in northern Iraq, in Kurdistan, and particularly being in the Nineveh Plains. And on one of the days, we got taken to an ancient monastery, Hormas Monastery, just on the edge of the Nineveh Plains, the plains where ISIS had ransacked, and there were smokes of burning Christian villages and churches that filled the air. But overlooking the Nineveh Plains is this Hormas Monastery. And we got to the monastery and they told us a bit of the story. They took us into the inner labyrinths of this monastery, right into the very kind of inner chamber, right in the heart of the mountain. And it was the prayer cell where Father Hormas, back in the 7th century, used to go to pray. And in the ceiling of this prayer cell were these two little loops, and then there was a shelf on the side with a candle on it, which obviously wasn't from the 7th century, but the burn marks of the candle on the roof were there, and there's a cross mosaic in the wall. And as the father showed us around this prayer cell and pointed out the different things, and I asked him about the loops in the ceiling, and he said, oh, well, Father Hormas used to come in to pray because he recognized that his call was to pray for the church. And when he'd come in to pray, he used to attach to his hair these loops of a chain, and then attach these loops of a chain to the loop in the ceiling, so that when he set himself to pray, that if when praying he fell asleep and his head nodded forward, the loops attached to the ceiling would pull on his hair locks and would wake him up and keep him praying. Now, when they shared that, I found like both inspired and horrified at the same time. Inspired by just Father Hormas's commitment to prayer and his recognition of the importance of prayer, that he would discomfort himself because of the outcomes of staying alert and being faithful in prayer. I was also horrified on two levels. One, the extreme asceticism, and two, reflecting on my own spirituality and consistency and commitment in prayer. So I'm definitely determined to be challenged by that. But last week I was driving back from a Christian conference and ended up leaving quite late in the evening, about 11:15 in the evening, for about a 3.5-hour journey home. Eventually got home about 2:45 after about 3 stop-offs at motorway services, because my eyes were just rolling in the back of my head, and I had to stop off for coffee and then a bite to eat and then a Red Bull and some chocolates, because I needed to stay awake. I needed to keep awake. I needed to stay awake because actually life depended on it, not just my life and the life of the car, but my son and our other passengers. It was vital that I stayed awake for the whole journey. And I've been reading in Mark 13, and there's this passage at the end of Mark 13 which says this: but concerning that day or that hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard and keep awake, for you do not know when a time will come. It's like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his servants in charge, each with his work, and he commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore, stay awake. For you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake. So in this passage, you got Jesus saying, keep awake, stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. It's only a couple of chapters later where the disciples are in Gethsemane with Jesus and they can't stay awake. They fall asleep. And I think looking back, if they recognize the hour, if they recognize the moment they're in, if they recognize the significance of that moment and their presence with Jesus, I don't think they would have fallen asleep. I think they'd have stopped off for a coffee or a Red Bull. They'd have pinched their inner thigh or whatever they needed to do in order to stay alert, to stay awake, to keep awake. And I think that's such a challenge to us when it comes to prayer, that there is a need for us to be alert. There is a need for us to be awake in the place of prayer, because our prayers are powerful and effective. And one of the biggest things we have to overcome is this sense of diminishing the power of prayer and the significance of the impact it has. And Jesus' words are, stay awake. It's so important that we stay awake. Lives are at stake, and our prayers make a difference in just that story and in that battle. So I want to encourage you, and I want to thank you for the alertness that you give to your brothers and sisters around the world. I want to thank you for your awakeness in prayer and encourage you, stay awake, keep awake, stay awake, and keep praying.